If you're looking at the revenue numbers, when Amazon buys a product for Vendor Central, they book that entire revenue. When a marketplace seller sells a product, Amazon only records the transaction fee, which is 15%. So that's understated if you're looking at the actual numbers.
This is the Ecommerce Braintrust, a podcast about building momentum online for established consumer brands. Join our hosts and their expert guests for high-level conversations about e-commerce strategies, trends, and innovations. Access our Braintrust and boost your brand's e-commerce potential.
Hello and welcome back to the Ecommerce Braintrust podcast. I am your host, Kiri Masters, and as usual, I'm joined by your co-host, Julie Spear.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Kiri.
So Julie and I are both from Bobsled Marketing, a marketing agency specifically for brands selling on the Amazon channel. And on this show, we talk about topics related to selling online for established consumer brands with a particular focus generally on Amazon, the channel that we most know and love here at Bobsled Marketing. And today we have a great guest on the show. It's Chad Rubin from Skubana. So Chad built this software, Skubana, based on his own pain points as a top 250 Amazon seller. So he co-founded Skubana with a developer and built one of the e-commerce industry's hottest operational softwares. So Skubana manages things like your data feeds through various e-commerce channels, where your inventory is. It automates the PO process, automates repricing, things like that. So it's really an all-in-one software that's designed for multi-channel merchants. And on the show today, I really wanted to bring Chad on to talk about the software ecosystem for Amazon sellers, which has really exploded in the last few years and I think been really, really helpful to the whole merchant ecosystem, because Amazon Seller Central is still kind of challenging to navigate and does not have all the features that these third-party software providers are bringing to the table.
Yeah, I'd say even in the past 6 to 8 months, it's had a whole other level of burst in terms of the tools that are on the market and available to sellers and brands.
Yeah, I mean, they're filling a need of for sellers, and the Seller Central platform is very extensive. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of data that is presented in business reports, but a lot of data isn't presented, at least in the format that merchants want it to be presented. So having so much data and different reference points makes it necessary to have software.
Yeah, absolutely. And you find that some of the functionality of the newer softwares that are on the market, they do a lot of work in terms of interpreting the data, making it user-friendly, whether it's pulling apart exactly the information you need or it's presenting it in a way that's much more appealing. I'd say that these third-party software tools are definitely serving a need, no doubt about it.
Yeah, so I think something that's really driving these third-party software developers is Amazon's own app store that they have released for software developers, which came out in May-ish. And so they sort of vetted a whole bunch of third-party software providers and put them in an app store, essentially, where merchants are able to see what tools are available, check them out. They kind of know that Amazon hasn't fully endorsed them. By virtue of them being in the App Store, you kind of know that Amazon's done their due diligence to make sure it's a real company, that they're committed to ongoing development and things like that. So that's something that I'm talking about with Chad in this interview today, is what will the future of Amazon software look like, and what merchants can expect, what they can expect from Amazon to build out directly versus relying on third-party tools. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing this interview, and Julie and I will come back and do a recap after my interview with Chad. But before we get into that, Julie, is there anything that you want to point our listeners' attention to during the conversation?
There's another, it's related, but a somewhat tangentially related topic when you guys touch on seller fulfilled Prime and where Chad's take on where that and what use cases that can work best for different brands. And I thought I was very into the software conversation, but I was also interested in his take on when he sees seller fulfilled Prime working and what's a scenario logistically that sets it up for success.
Yeah, great point. So we're going to run the interview now, and then Julie and I will come back with a few takeaways. Let's do it. Okay, so I'm here with Chad Rubin. Welcome to the Ecommerce Braintrust podcast, Chad.
Thanks for having me.
So I've known you for a couple of years as the founder of Skubana, which is a really great software tool for brand selling in a multi-channel environment. Before we get into talking about Amazon specifically and Amazon software ecosystem, tell us a little bit about Skubana and the problems that it solves for brands.
Sure. So Skubana is a operation platform to run and automate a multi-marketplace omni-channel business. So we do everything from shipping to inventory to automated purchase orders to analytics all in one. I'm a co-founder, so I have a partner who builds it and I sell it pretty much. And it was initially built around my needs as a e-commerce. I've been in the e-commerce game for it's been a decade now, both on Amazon and off Amazon on multi different channels, on about 20 different channels. And I needed to find a software that actually did what it claimed it could do. And that was really the birth of Skubana.
And so when you're talking about shipping and things like that, is it really built for a brand that has its own fulfillment facility, or like what type of company is it really best suited for?
Yeah, so the great thing is we made it super flexible. So we have 5 different fulfillment methods in our platform. So think of your shipping software, we print shipping labels. We do all of that on the cloud in our platform. If you drop ship, we can drop ship. If you have a 3PL, we can connect to your 3PL via FTP or via API. We have an app store in our own platform. You can actually manage all your FBA fulfilled orders in our system, and you can do all your inbound shipping to FBA through Skubana, all the FBA workflow process. So it's literally any way you fulfill all in one platform.
Really cool. So recently, in the last couple of months, Amazon has rolled out their app store for sellers, and Skubana was first on the list when they launched it. So tell us what your experience has been in the app store and why Amazon approached Skubana to partner with you.
Yeah, so look, Amazon loves control. They do a great job of managing their own internal processes. And when it came to there's all these companies right now that are launching softwares that are geared towards Amazon. We're certainly very Amazon centric, but we also support every other shopping cart or marketplace that you're on. So I think the marketplace app store is just one way to get certain softwares that Amazon trusts in line with Amazon's terms of service, and that actually do a great job to support businesses that sell on Amazon.
Yeah, in the lineup of software providers that they selected for the App Store, it did seem to be really established software companies who've been in the game for quite a while. They seem to be really doing their homework and due diligence on each provider to make sure it was a good experience for sellers.
Yeah, and I think that's really what Amazon cares most about, is supporting the businesses that sell on their platform, but inevitably allow those businesses that sell on their platform to support their customers and their shoppers on Amazon.
Yeah, exactly. So what's Amazon been like to work with as a partner?
They've been great. They are including us. First of all, including us in the App Store, going through the certification process with them, and also giving us the opportunity to work with them on feature requests or changes that are coming down the pike for Amazon. I think we get first dibs on that. And so we're just excited to be part of the entire process, because Amazon they make changes so frequently. And I think it'll allow for a better relationship, not only with our company, but with our development team, because Amazon could change something and we may not even be aware of it. So it allows for a direct line of communication to work in tandem with Amazon, because our software supports them in parallel.
Yeah. It's really great to hear, because I think a big complaint that comes from brands, particularly those who have had a retail relationship with Amazon in the past or still have one, is that support for brands themselves is is being pulled back. And so there's less and less human interaction with people at Amazon and more automation and bots and help articles. But sometimes you need someone to talk to figure out a problem. And there seems to be less of that. On the flip side, they have built out teams like the software development interface. They've also really been building out their Amazon advertising platform team. Mm-hmm. So at Bobsled Marketing, our ad team now has like a account manager that manages agency relationships, and we've got a direct line in to them around everything advertising related, because surprise, surprise, Amazon wants brands to be spending more money on advertising, and working with agencies is a pretty good way to do that. It's promising seeing some more direct communication coming through with Amazon, because they've really pulled back for sellers and vendors. So I was going to ask you, because Amazon has been building out, particularly Seller Central, probably to a lesser degree Vendor Central, but they're always adding features to Seller Central in some cases where there have already been software solutions managing those processes. The big example for me is repricing. So for a long time, there were lots of repricing software options available. And then one day Amazon launches their own tool within Seller Central that does that. I'm not sure it does as good a job as third-party repricing software does, but to what extent do you think Amazon is going to rely on third-party software developers to build out the capabilities of being a seller on Amazon versus doing it themselves?
Yeah, so the repricing tool is very rudimentary. If you're a very advanced seller on Amazon today, chances are you're not going to be using Amazon's repricing tool. So like you need to have the proper insight into your cost of goods sold. Like by lowering a price by this much, how much profit does that generate for your business? So it's, again, very, 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 very basic. Let's just say there's 2 million sellers on Amazon. I think Amazon said did they recently say that there's 100,000 sellers doing over 1 million?
Not sure. I haven't heard that.
Yeah. So there's a small amount of sellers that are doing pretty good business. So yeah, I think it's just for people that are just starting out, maybe selling out of their garage, but they need to help these large advanced sellers sell more on their platform. And that's really what the App Store does. And I think that's just a testament to that Amazon wants to support these softwares. They want to have like a direct communication with these softwares that are complementing their platforms, that are enabling and empowering sellers to sell more.
Okay. So you don't feel threatened at all by the idea that Amazon is going to be looking at your program's features and potentially adding some of those features to their own platform if they're seeing it work.
Yeah. They're not for, at least as it relates to Skubana, they're not in the ERP business, right? They're not in the operation platform business. Seller Central is a portal. They can't possibly move in all these directions.
Right. Okay. And so obviously the space that Skubana fills is a big gap with Amazon due to that point, the fact that it's a portal, not an ERP, and there's very limited logistics tools that you can use within Seller Central. What are the other current tech gaps that you see with selling on Amazon that you think Amazon's going to try and fill with third-party vendors? So
I think right now, Amazon's advertising tool is very nascent, and I think they're going to evolve tremendously over time. So I think that's an area that they're going to be focusing on. I think when it comes to messaging merchants or messaging shoppers, email messaging is going to become a lot more important. Like Amazon, at the end of the day, in my opinion, this is just me speaking off the top of my head, is they want to provide the best possible experience to their clients while making the most money. So if they can help sellers advertise a product and get to the top that actually a customer is looking for, they're going to do that. But when it comes to email messaging, or when it comes to even you look at the feedback request, they launched like a review, kind of like Vine for 1P sellers. They launched a Vine type offering for 3P sellers called the Early Reviewer Program. And those are small steps in the right direction to protect the review network on Amazon. So those things are great small features that Amazon adds to help other sellers level up but keep their nose clean.
Yeah, definitely. And so the seller ecosystem in terms of applications and software is on fire right now. There's so many different, particularly PPC related tools coming out, but there's not really a whole lot for vendors. So I'm curious to get your thoughts as a software, as the co-founder of a software company, why are vendors continuously ignored?
Well, I think Amazon only buys 5% of their catalog. So 95% of Amazon's catalog is third-party sellers. And right now, in its current form, Vendor Central doesn't even have an API. They have the EDI, but it just is very, very different than the Seller Central experience. So for 5% of their catalog, does Amazon really want to build out? It's not really I think that's not where they make the most money. They make a ton of money on the marketplace side of it, and they're going to support that in more detail.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think in my mind, I see the 1P inventory as it's still a substantial amount of sales on Amazon. Like the GMV of 1P sales is still really large compared to the marketplace. Marketplace is kind of the idea of infinite selection, and infinite selection is going to drive down prices, make the marketplace more competitive. So they're never going to stop trying to recruit marketplace sellers, because then they get more products, better prices, they're replacing people that leave or get kicked off. But with the vendors, there's just less of them.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I believe that if you're looking at the revenue numbers, when Amazon buys a product for Vendor Central, they book that entire revenue. When a marketplace seller sells a product, Amazon only records the transaction fee, which is 15%.
The fee income.
So that's understated if you're looking at the actual numbers.
Right. Yeah. So anything else to add around the software ecosystem that you see as it is developing with Amazon?
Let's see. The software ecosystem, look, I think everyone and their grandmother is coming out with the software right now. So in order to protect Amazon experience, that's, to me, in my opinion, this is why the Marketplace App Store was announced. They essentially, you have to be in good standing. You go through a review on Amazon, and there's a lot of other criteria to be accepted. So, because again, everyone's just growing, maybe offshoring, like all of Stubano's developments in New York City. In fact, the entire company is right in New York, and we have two offices, one in New York, one in Jersey. We're really here to stay, and we're building a very solid tool that is going to empower you to sell more on Amazon and also help sellers or merchants on Amazon make more money. We also, by the way, we are the first software that supports hybrid. So we actually support both 1P and 3P sellers simultaneously.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's good to know, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Because the needs are very different.
Yeah, the needs are very different. We have in our App Store, we connect via EDI, and then we natively integrate to Amazon FBA and allow you to do all your FBA planning, especially since now Amazon is launched the Inventory Performance Index, the IPI, which essentially, if you're not adhering to those standards, you're going to be limited in what you can send into Amazon. So we have developed some pretty robust automation functionality around FBA workflow, along with supporting Seller Fulfilled Prime.
Yeah, that's a huge area. What have you seen at Skubana around the adoption of Seller Fulfilled Prime? Because early on, when they first launched the program, it was, and it still is, to be fair, very, very, you need to have really pristine performance metrics to stay in that program and be shipping, same day with like 0 errors. So do you see that as a good option for many sellers? Have you seen a lot of adoption with it? So
the Seller Fulfilled Prime, we do have a lot of clients, especially since our clients are very advanced. They have multi-warehouse locations, and they can actually hit 2-day in the United States without paying the 2-day price. So that's really important, having multi-warehouse functionality and routing capabilities. So it's all about, in order to really win in e-commerce right now, it's all about being a systems thinker. And so what we've developed is a system that takes the thinking outside of fulfillment and automates that process. So yes, we have seen people, a large uptake in our advanced community using Seller Fulfilled Prime. And then, of course, we have a couple of customers right now that are actually beta testing what's called FBA on-site, which essentially is creating your own FBA warehouse in your own warehouse and getting a lot better pricing through a rate card. We broke that story with Bloomberg a couple of weeks ago.
So is the FBA on-site program kind of like Amazon will come and do their due diligence of your warehouse and install some software that's going to enable you to run it more efficiently?
Yeah, and then you get better pricing because Seller Prime, I don't know if you're essentially using the buy API, but not everyone's pricing is as good as what Amazon gets when they're fulfilling from their own FBA warehouse.
Oh, gotcha. So they get better logistics costs from shippers.
From what we understand, yes.
Okay. Oh, interesting. And just to go back to another thing that you mentioned earlier around emails with customers. So a lot of sellers are using the buyer-seller messaging service within Amazon, whether natively or through software, to send follow-up messages to customers to let them know that they can help them with any issues. And then, of course, the other thing that they want is more reviews. So I'm just reading the tea leaves here, looking at what they did in 2016 to stop incentivized reviews and all the changes that they're making with the review system. They want to keep that really clean. They want to keep it as a trustworthy system that people go to learn about products. But there's just so much manipulation going on right now. Do you think that Amazon will make it easier or harder for sellers to communicate with customers after the sale?
I think they're making it more difficult because they want to make sure they're having the appropriate communication with, it's really Amazon's customer at the end of the day. So when someone buys from you on Amazon, it's not your customer, it's Amazon's client. And I think there needs to be better processes put in place to make sure there's no abuse. And I think just what we've seen over the course of the last couple months and years on Amazon, there's been a lot of abuse and a lot of gray area where you can take advantage of the TOS. And that's why you see Amazon now removing tons and tons of reviews from people's products.
Yeah, for sure. They're keeping us on our toes. Well, thanks for coming on the show and telling us a little bit more about how the software ecosystem is working with Amazon. And if people are interested in learning more about Skubana and seeing if it's a good solution for them, where would you point them?
You can go to Skubana.com. That's Skubana, like Cubana, but Skubana.com. You can always email me at chad@skubana.com if you want to know more. I'm happy to help.
Excellent. Thanks, Chad. Catch you soon.
Thank you.
All right. And Kiri and I are back to share our takeaways of her conversation with Chad Rubin from Skubana. One of the things that stood out to me in the interview, Kiri, was your conversation with Chad around the tech gaps that do exist, really zeroing in on the gaps that exist for sellers on Amazon. And if I think anyone who is active on Amazon, the first thing that comes to mind, the first thing that they'll say in response to a question about this is around PPC. And Chad didn't disappoint. That was his first response as well, that he sees the advertising tools within Amazon being more nascent or immature, and that is a significant gap right now for sellers. What's your take?
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think a lot of question marks for me come from where we don't know Amazon's going to go policy-wise. So one feature that several tools offer today is the ability to automate follow-ups between sellers and customers on Amazon. Send them messages after their order has been delivered, or 3 days after their order has been delivered, or 1 day after their order was placed. And what a lot of sellers are using this for is to contact the customer and provide a channel for feedback and questions, so the customer doesn't leave a negative review if they don't understand how to use the product or have some issue with it. So it's to prevent negative reviews and also invite more product reviews from customers, because product reviews it's like squeezing blood out of a stone for many merchants. The response rate is so low. Definitely less than 5% of people leave a review after buying a product. So to me, this is a big question mark. As an example, will Amazon eventually stop that mechanism from being available, because a lot of customers are opting out of those messages because they're getting pestered by sellers. Mm-hmm. And so there's people that would have a debate with me about whether that will happen or not. But these are all areas where there's going to be endless opportunities for developers. Some will have to change course with tools and functions that they've developed that may change in the future, but there's going to continue to be so many changes with Amazon that it'll be a game of who can respond fastest to whatever new term or program Amazon rolls out.
Yeah. And is it fair to say, just based on listening to the conversation between you and Chad, that Amazon, in terms of sellers needing to keep up with their changes and terms and all of that, while Amazon is also removing the human contact, or more significantly limiting the human contact, is it fair to say that it's your interpretation that their answer to that is this app store? Like, you won't have contact with us, but here are some solutions to help make your management of your account easier.
Yeah.
It is kind of a one-to-one swap, or is the presence of the app store just, a nice bonus that they're offering sellers?
Great question. And because I was thinking whether these developers are concerned in any way that Amazon's going to put this app store together, see what apps are popular, and then develop that functionality within their platform. And that doesn't seem to be Chad's view. I think that his view is that Amazon's got bigger fish to fry, frankly, and that they would rather the burden be put on third-party developers to develop these new tools and provide an easy way for merchants to access them. But who knows? They're continually rolling out features for sellers, less so for vendors, as we talked about. But I don't think that they really have the ability or maybe interest in keeping up with what third-party developers are able to put out into the market really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems they're putting their focus more and more on offering those features. Like you said, you guys talked about the early reviewer program, which is essentially like the Vine equivalent in Seller Central.
Yeah.
So the small ways that sellers can compete with the big boys.
Yeah, and I think Chad also mentioned, if you think about Apple App Store or the Google Play Store or any app store equivalent, the platform is just, there's no way that they're going to make 17 different types of WhatsApp applications, or, there's always going to be a place for long tail applications with a very specific use case, or maybe, in the case of Skubana, they don't just serve Amazon. Amazon's a portion of what they do, and they work with merchants who need operational software that works across all their platforms. Amazon's not going to come up with that capability. So there will always be a place for them. And I'm actually really pleased to see Amazon embracing these third-party developers and building a closer partnership with them, because as Amazon becomes larger, they can seem like they're more distant to customers and to sellers and service providers. So I'm really glad to see them partnering closer with agencies and developers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the presence of the App Store and the fact that Amazon has vetted those software developers to some extent, it's a great resource to sellers to know that there's the software available to improve their management of their account. I think it's a great resource that they've offered sellers.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks again to Chad for coming on the show and talking with us about being a software tool that's recently engaged more closely with the Amazon ecosystem. And I'm looking forward to seeing what feedback people have on the App Store and what experience they've had with it. So you can follow us a little more closely if you sign up for our email list at ecommercebraintrust.com, and you can send us a message there and sign up for our newsletter to stay up to date. Thanks for joining me, Julie, and I'll catch you next week.
Yeah, thanks, Kiri.